Hi, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Dr. McKinney. I've been getting a couple of questions about your final social marketing project, so I thought I would make you a little video to talk about that. First, I'm going to go through an example of one I did, obviously about 10 years ago. So don't judge the topic because things have changed a lot. Then I will show you the template that you have to use and the rubric as well. Now remember, we're using our topic of, excuse me, what we've been working on all semester, looking at aspects of campus safety, okay? The presentation I'm going to show you is Consent is Sexy. Now, if you know anything about sexual violence prevention, this is like a decade old. We don't do this anymore, so just be aware of that. But anyway, this is what I expect of your presentation, okay? So, consent is sexy. Statement of the problem. Sexual consent. It is a problem. People do not ask for or give consent on a regular basis. Primarily, I was looking at college students and really focusing on their lack of knowledge, all the different pieces that make up consent. So looking at that, to define consent, there are various pieces. Consent has to be sober. It has to be verbalized, as in yes means yes. It has to be uncoerced, and it is episode specific. If I've said yes previously and I say no now, it doesn't matter that I've said yes before. It's just this episode that we're talking about. This particular campaign that I'm talking about will focus on sober consent. So looking at the epidemiology of sexual assault on college campuses, approximately 3.5% of college women will be sexually assaulted. Other statistics have it up to 1 in 4 or 25% of women of college age will experience an attempted or completed sexual assault during her college career. Now, the majority of perpetrators in these incidents are male, and the majority of survivors of the assaults are female. However, sexual assault stats are notoriously unreliable because people don't report. It is one of the most underreported crimes there is. And this kind of situation we have where you think the male perpetrator and the female victim, it sets up a very dangerous situation when you're looking at prevention, because not all men will rape. Statistics tell us that that only 5% of men will assault someone in their lifetime. Of those 5%, though, they will commit on average 7 sexual assaults. So we have to use this epidemiology, this background information to inform our program. So I was targeting my college that I was going to for my PhD. I was targeting students. I was looking at first-year students because they are particularly vulnerable. For 6 to 8 weeks of your first and second year of college are called the red zone. I was also looking at Greek students because there often tends to be a high rate of sexual assault in that group. And then if I had the funds and the resources, I would do the entire student body. So, competition to my message, competition to getting sober consent. Society, we're sexually stifled. We don't talk about sex. We just, while we see it in media and entertainment, we don't openly talk about it, especially with kids. And peers might pressure others. So all kinds of competition out there to not get sober consent. So goals and objectives. Now notice these are very specific. They're SMART goals. So they're specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. I wanted to look at knowledge and awareness. So increase knowledge of consent by 50% as measured by pre-test, post-test evaluations within one academic year. Similarly, I wanted to increase awareness of sober consent, more specifically, by 50% again, with a pre-post test measure within that one academic year. So, sober consent, my goals and objectives: 25% of students will report using sober consent, requesting or giving before sexual encounters within one academic year. And my ultimate goal was then to reduce sexual assault. So my 4 P's: product. That is the actual asking for or giving consent before any sexual activity. Place, this would be throughout the campus community, at the bar, in the residence halls, wherever you're giving consent. And we could promote it throughout the campus community as well, anywhere students might gather. So for promotion, I wanted to do flyers, advertisements in the student newspaper, on the student radio station, incorporating social media. The price, it's free. It's free to ask for consent. It's free to give consent. However, there is a potential price of being rejected, that person saying no and you having to accept that no. It takes time, in the heat of things, you have to stop and be like, hey, is this okay? And the courage to potentially accept that rejection. So, product. The core product is preventing sexual assault. So that is the end goal, what we want to do with this campaign. The actual product is getting that verbal yes or no, getting that consent augmented. The plan was, besides the promotion of flyers and advertisements, we would get like business cards with funny pickup lines, different ways to give or get consent, t-shirts with catchy pickup lines, and then bead necklace condom carriers that also had consent or pickup lines on them. So to segment my population, it was dependent on on funding. So first year students, if I had a small amount of money, I would target first year students because they are easily targeted. Everybody has to take that first year class. And again, they are the most at risk. Greek students, again, easy targeted group because they have to participate in educational programs, things like that. And then the full campaign would be, or the full campus campaign would be the biggest because it's going to be most costly, but it would reach the greatest number of people. All right, in theory, exchange theory. I needed to make consent look better than the alternative. So one option here would be no one looks good in an orange jumpsuit, kind of going on the fact that you might end up in jail if you don't get consent. Stages of change, my fave. Those who are contemplating the change will be most easily swayed because they are thinking about it. They know it's an issue and it's maybe time to act. All right, so here was my first message. I tested students in one of my human sexuality classes. And this is actually a real live ad from University of Central Florida. That's why it looks really good. So you can see the message. This was message 1. This is message 2. It's cut off a little bit. Same message, just different glass. And then message 3, this is one I made because I'm not a graphic designer, you can tell. And the photo in the upper corner there is actually the student body president at the time. Please don't ask how I got that. So they saw all three messages in the message testing, and these were the results. So I looked at 25 undergrad students in my human sexuality classes. They looked at three messages, and answered some different questions. Now, for your projects, you are not going to have this because pandemic, and I was your message testing. So in this space, what I would like you to do is talk about the feedback I gave you, the comments, the things that I asked you to maybe work on or change. So this was my message testing. Here are my demographics, year, Greek affiliation, and then what they asked or what they said I should change. So some of them said nothing, some of them said the font, the color. A couple of them requested or thought that I should change the message. Primarily, people thought that I should add beer to the beer glasses. That was the biggest change. So looking at, no one liked my message that I made with the little picture in the corner. They liked the beer glasses. And it was pretty evenly split, maybe a few more for the beer glass versus the beer mug. So looking at what they had to say, and again, you're not going to necessarily have this for your presentation, but they got the message that sex plus consent minus beer is a good idea. Don't get people drunk. Sex without consent is rape. You have to be sober to give consent. All of those things, that's exactly what I wanted them to get. How would I make it more visually appealing? Again, they didn't like the message at the bottom about alcohol can lead to rape, but they really liked the beer mug, but they wanted beer in it. So again, beer mugs, eye-catching, simple. A lot of people like the font. They either liked the font or they hated the font. So if I were to revise this message, I would add the color. I would add some beer to the mug. Not change the message, but make the beer in the mug, make it a little more visually pleasing. So again, the implementation of the program would depend on funding. First year, a little bit. If I had more money, I would add the Greeks. And then if I had lots of money, I would add the whole student body. So who could potentially fund this program? So my university, looking at staff, looking at student workers being able to potentially do this as part of their work study, spread the message, get in-kind donations that we could somehow use, looking at rape, abuse, incest national network for possible grant money or VAWA grants through the federal government. And then finally, evaluate. Remember, we always have to evaluate our program. We have to think about evaluation from the beginning. So if I were to look at a process evaluation, the evaluation that we would do intermittently throughout the program, I would look at my target audience, which again, UT, particularly first year students. I would do it at least every quarter to make sure students are still responding to the message and make adjustments as needed. And then the summative evaluation would be done at the conclusion of the program. It would be in-house to save money, and it would look at the overall success of the program, if any changes needed to happen, things like that. All right, there you have it. I'll be back with more information in a bit.